And I'm being joined by the former ambassador, Prabhu Dayal. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Prabhu Dayal, how do we really make out from what's happening with the remarks being repeated by Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau? Now he's saying it's important to have the ties with India, to work towards it. It's important for Canada and its allies to engage with India per se. Of course, he maintains and he reiterates that India needs to work with Canada to find out the facts behind Niger, but a very different tone and tenor now of what he's speaking in comparison to what we've been hearing over the last few days from him.
Well, Justin Trudeau is being extremely duplicitous. This is a classic case of hunting with the hounds and running with the hare. On the one hand, he's saying that India is a very important player in the geopolitical sense and that Canada will work with it. And on the other hand, he has not retracted his baseless allegations. He said he has credible allegations, but he has not backed them up with a shred of evidence. Now, his standing within Canada has gone down. Firstly, his own people are doubting whether he is capable of leading the country because he's making such a mess of things. Secondly, he's been recently embarrassed because in their parliament, they gave a standing ovation and clapped for a former Nazi person who is now a part of the Ukrainian setup. Then, Canada has probably come to realize that it has annoyed India. It has annoyed India by its very immature statements. And naturally, this is going to be very, very adversely impacting Canada itself. So Justin Trudeau, on the one hand, is saying that he wants to work with India. But on the other hand, he is also saying that India must work together with Canada in regard to, investigating the Niger case. Now, let me mention that there are a lot of questions being raised regarding the involvement of the Canadian intelligence services, because Niger's son has himself said that he met the Canadian intelligence people just a few days before he was shot. And his son also said that he used to meet the Canadian intelligence people regularly. So there was some network which Niger had with the Canadian intelligence, and there are now reports emerging that the ISI was also involved with Niger. So frankly speaking, Trudeau should investigate what his own intelligence people were up to. He should investigate what role the ISI played, and he should stop making any baseless allegations against India.
Right. In fact, Mr. Prabhu Dayal, if you look at what India's stand has been in this, India has maintained that if you share evidence, we are willing to work on this. We are willing to work very closely on this entire issue. But it has also rubbished these allegations, saying they're completely baseless, they are motivated. Now, in comparison to what Canada has been saying, what Prime Minister Trudeau has been reiterating time and again over the last few days, vis-a-vis what India's stand has been, do you see a sense of consistency with what India really has been maintaining, as opposed to perhaps what you're seeing either from Prime Minister Trudeau or also what you're witnessing in the House of Commons there?
Well, India's position has been very consistent. We have always said that if you have credible evidence, please share with us and we will look into it. What more can we do? But what are the Canadians doing? They have leveled baseless allegations. They said they have credible allegations. But what are these credible allegations if they are not backed with credible evidence? Has he shared any evidence? Does he have any evidence? So while on the one hand, our position is very solid, on the other hand, the Canadian position is very flimsy. And Justin Trudeau realizes it, the Canadian people realize it, the media realizes it, and he's being severely criticized in Canada for what he has done.
Right. In fact, Mr. Prabhu Dayal, an important development that really has happened just over the last few hours is perhaps India's Jay Shankar and US Secretary of State Blinken meeting. There was a time when Prime Minister Trudeau or Canada even stated that this issue of what's happening between India and Canada, that is going to be raised even in this meeting. There were suggestions to that effect. But really, in terms of at least what has been officially come out from both the sides, this doesn't find any mention.
You know, not everything which is discussed in a meeting of this sort gets out into the public space. So I'm not sure whether this issue was discussed or not discussed. And if it was discussed, what did Blinken say and what did we say? Of course, our minister, Mr. Jaishankar, would have categorically said that if Canada has any evidence, it should share it with us. And this is the position that India has always taken in regard to this issue. So I'm not sure whether this issue was not discussed. But I'm sure that we were able to make it amply clear to the Americans that Justin Trudeau is just fibbing. And if he had any evidence, he would have shared it with us.
I also have to raise this point at this time, Mr. Prabhu Dayal. Now, Canada has said its allies have shared evidence with them. This was raised by them, and it has been mutually shared. And that Canada has raised evidence with India, not evidence, but they say they use the word credible allegations. How does one really look at all of this, considering what the stand has been of India, and also about how Prime Minister Trudeau now seems to be suggesting about it's very important for the ties for India and Canada to continue in the way it is. However, we must remember the trade talks derailed. They were postponed indefinitely.
You know, there is a huge difference between somebody saying credible allegations and coming up with credible evidence. Trudeau has been consistently saying that we have credible allegations. But we have been pointing out that what we need from you is credible evidence. And he has not come up with a shred of evidence. Now, what Trudeau has been saying is definitely impacting Indo-Canadian relations. As you mentioned, the trade talks have been derailed. India has also stopped the visa issuance for some time. There is an overall adverse nature of the relationship which is coming to the fore. You know, when Canada is accusing the government of India for the assassination of Niger, because Trudeau said the Indian government's agents were involved in the assassination of Niger, then how can we have a normal and good relationship with Canada? They must first withdraw these allegations, or if they don't want to withdraw, they must show us what evidence they have. But unless they do this, I'm afraid that the relationship will not come back on its even keel.
Right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, for joining us. This is perhaps an important development that will be very closely monitored, something that is not just between India and Canada, but several countries will be very closely looking at how this is being dealt with.